Today there seems to be a lot of confusion about why monuments to Virginia veterans that served in the war between the states are placed at Virginia courthouses. It's either Virginians don't know their own history or revisionists wish to change it to fit their narrative. To explain this, we go back to the first settlement in Virginia. The Virginia Company, with the goals of establishing an English settlement on the coast of America, landed November the 28th, 1607, on the James River and built a triangular fort called James Fort. As more settlers arrived, the fort quickly grew into a town, Jamestown, with a royal governor. In 1619, the colonists formed a government called the House of Burgesses. The Burgesses were representatives of colonial towns that would meet once a year with the royal governor to decide local laws and determine local taxes. The legislating body of the Burgesses divided the colony into shires based on a form of local government used in England at the time. The Burgesses later officially renamed the term shires to counties, and courthouses were built in each county to establish the seat of government for that county. Starting in Jamestown, all citizens capable of bearing arms were part of the military system and would train with the purpose of repelling invasions, insurrections, and enforcing the law in Virginia. A surprise attack in 1622 that killed off one-third of the colonists, the King of England took over control of the colony. In 1661, Governor William Berkeley ordered men were to be bound to be trained as a citizen army every month in their particular counties. By 1754, the counties were mustering and training at the courthouse only twice a year, March or April, and September or October. The royal governor called for Virginia to serve in the French and Indian War. The local militia enlisted at the local courthouse. In 1774, revolution was at Virginia's doorstep. The British royal governor, Lord Dunmore, dissolved the Virginia House of Burgesses because of their support to the city of Boston. Later, the Virginia General Assembly unanimously voted for independence from Great Britain, and the state of Virginia was formed. Governor Patrick Henry called for the citizen soldiers trained at the courthouse to enlist in the defense now of the new state, the state of Virginia. Shortly afterwards, the Revolutionary War began. Fast forward to the War of 1812, Governor James Barbas issued a general order listing Virginia military troops to the war. Again, the citizen soldiers mustered at the local courthouses and formed the Virginia Army to stop the British invasion. In 1860, Lincoln was elected President of the United States, and 7 states left the Union and formed a new government, the Confederate States of America. Lincoln called for troops from all the states still in the Union to force the 7 states back into the Union. It feared he would take over Virginia by military force. Virginia seceded from the Union, and again the governor called for the men to volunteer for their service at the local courthouse and muster into the Virginia military, which later would join the Confederacy and fight in the war between the states. The war would come to an end in 1865 with the Confederacy surrendering and Virginia being placed under military rule until 1877, when Reconstruction finally came to an end. 1883, 18 years after the war, ex-Confederate General Cooke requested a number of Confederate veterans who belonged to benevolent societies throughout the state to meet with him in Richmond. At this meeting, it was agreed upon to start an organization in Virginia to help the displaced Confederate veterans. The Confederate Veterans Association was set up as a camp to help consolidate the smaller groups around the local area and the city. 4 other cities would shortly follow Richmond's lead. The group formed the R.E. Lee Soldiers' Home, which purpose was to care for the disabled and the destitute Confederate veterans. In 1887, The camps formed an organization called the Grand Camp of Virginia, with the objective of taking care of their helpless and dependent comrades, and preserve the records of the service of every Virginia Confederate veteran that served in the war as possible. Counties throughout Virginia quickly set up camps and started researching the history of the enlistment in their county. Virginia had been a battleground from the beginning of the war. Every day, every hour, for 4 long years, soldiers from both armies were upon Virginia's soil. Virginia sent more men to fight than any other state, and the majority of the fighting, 600 battles, took place here. As the veterans researched their local history, they discovered that many of the men died on distant battlefields, and their burial sites were unknown. For their dedication and sacrifice, the community placed monuments at the courthouse, a memorial to honor these brave men who answered the call for their county. Back to the question why the monuments are at the courthouse. The county veterans, wives, widows, orphans, didn't know where their loved ones' where eternal resting place was, but they knew one thing. It all began at the courthouse. From the time of Jamestown to the war between the states, the enlistment of the Virginia Army was at the courthouse. The monuments were about honor and respect of the men that served the county and the state of Virginia, and not some social justice cause that a revisionist was hoping to change or rewrite or destroy the history of Virginia. After the war, the federal government would now manage the armed forces, not the states. Recruiting would be done by drafts or volunteer, and citizens would report to the Federal Administration Building or a post office for duty. The days of military service and involvement and mustering at a courthouse were over.